So my husband passed away unexpectedly March 4th of last year.
Let's talk about Kouri Richins' other interview, not the one we've already covered with Good Things Utah in my previous video. You can look back at the link below in the playlist if you haven't caught up with that one. But let's check out Kouri Richins' other interview with KPCW. In that audio-only interview, Kouri talks about how she had plans for a second book, not just the first book, Are You With Me, with her late husband Eric Richins floating off like an ethereal angel up on the cover. Let's talk about her second book she had planned. Not only the second, but the third, the fourth, and the fifth, and all these different variations of books that the 33-year-old mom of three planned to write. Her second book, Mommy, How Far Away Is Heaven? She told the interviewer she thought it would hit the shelves by late April 2023 or early May. Little did she know she would be sitting in the Summit County Jail by May 8th, 2023, accused of poisoning her husband.
W News Time now. 8:30. Good morning. I'm Leslie Thatcher. It's the KPCW Local News Hour. Well, just more than a year ago, Kouri Richins and her three young children lost their husband and father unexpectedly. No doubt a very challenging time for all. And it was also the genesis for Kouri to write a book to help other young families deal with death. She joins me now in the studio. Good morning. And so sorry to hear about your loss.
No, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
This interview we're listening to took place April 12th. 2023, 26 days before Kouri's arrest on May 8th, 2023. KPCW is a public radio station in Park City, Utah. It's audio only, but it's very similar to the interview that Kouri gave Good Things Utah. Unfortunately, we can't see if she's like bundled up in her brown coat or jacket or anything. She does use, quite a bit. It's something I'm guilty of. That's one reason I love to edit my videos, to take out all the little annoying tics, verbal tics or mistakes that I might make, and make these videos as short as possible for you guys. But you'll see in listening to it, it's like Kouri was reading from the same script that she gave Good Things Utah. Maybe she did indeed have a script. And even though we can't see her face in this interview, we hear the same cheery tone. You don't ever hear her break down crying, or you don't hear her voice breaking. And of course, people grieve in different ways, so not everything is a red flag. But folks are picking out the red flags, and let's pick out the red flags in this interview. It's a little bit longer. It's 12 minutes long. We get to hear how Kouri describes her plans to just create this empire series of books, all based on the loss of her husband. Of course, none of the interviewers may have picked up anything when they were interviewing Kouri. Maybe they thought nothing was amiss. Well, the Good Things Utah ladies did pick up on something only after Kouri left, and folks started emailing the station. There was an anonymous email saying, look, that author you just had on likely killed her husband. But listen to how cheery Kouri sounds, and just the emotion isn't there of a recent widow. One who maybe loved and cared for her husband.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it very much. It's been a long year, difficult year. And kind of writing this book has brought a little peace to me and my boys.
The host opens by telling Kouri, I'm so sorry for your loss. Kouri says, thank you, I appreciate it very much. And she says, it's been a long year and difficult year, and kind of writing this book has brought a little peace to me and to my boys. Now here's the line that she repeated from Good Things Utah. Standard, not giving much information at all. My husband passed away unexpectedly March 4th of last year.
So take us back to last year. I mean, you've told me it's a rough go, and you felt a bit helpless as you were helping, trying to get your kids to heal.
Yes, exactly. So my husband passed away unexpectedly March 4th of last year.
My husband passed away unexpectedly last year, so it's March 4th was a 1-year anniversary for us.
So it's very, standard. She doesn't give a cause of death. She doesn't say, oh, he had a brain aneurysm or anything like that. The fewer words about Eric Richins, probably the better for Kouri. And the thing is, she doesn't mention Eric's name once. I listened to this whole interview more than once, 12 minutes long. I didn't hear Eric's name. That makes it more personal. I should go back and watch the other interview to see if she mentions Eric's name at all there. She just says husband. She talks about father of my kids. A lot of my kids. But she doesn't talk about Eric by name. She doesn't talk about his attributes or his good qualities or anything personally about him at all. Now, one thing that the women over at Good Things Utah mentioned was that when the cameras were off, Kouri tried to infer that Eric's passing had something to do with the pandemic and maybe, Rona got him or something. She doesn't say that on camera. These are more excuses because either she's blaming Rona or even in other articles and affidavits, we see that Kouri had told law enforcement allegedly Eric had some prescription pill addiction way back in high school or something. We see her kind of throwing shade at Eric in different ways or blaming him, alluding to, and this might end up being her defense, alluding to maybe some type of addiction. Maybe he did himself in, is probably what her defense will end up being. But on camera and on audio, she kept the details of his demise very vague. She doesn't wax nostalgic at all, as when you see a widow who is really touched by her husband's passing, this one widow I will never forget. Just seeing the pain in her eyes, it's hard to describe, but I just saw her tear up. And you don't see any of that with Kouri. And of course, that doesn't mean everyone will grieve standardly and the same, but there are red flags. She's pretty matter-of-fact and chipper. You can hear it in her voice. She's going to talk about how super excited her and her boys were over this book. One thing people are also picking up on, Kouri did not have her wedding ring on the Good Things Utah interview. I noticed that before too, and again, that's neither here nor there because you never know how you would react as a widow, and unfortunately for the widows out there watching, you leave it up to a person who's grieving. We learned this in Grief Recovery Handbook. We learned that people will grieve differently. Some people might feel the need to take their wedding ring off right away after their spouse is gone. Some folks might leave their wedding ring on for years, just thinking, I will never remarry, I'm never back on the market, and that's the way some people are viewing Kouri taking off her wedding ring. On the Good Things Utah interview, she had her wedding ring off, she's bundled up in her leather coat, and that's one thing that was mentioned. The interviewer said she refused to take off her coat, and she kept like a protective stance to her body, to her whole body language. And by her saying, she says it so often, people have been counting, there's hundreds of times. I didn't realize that's a way to interrupt what you're speaking about. And it's a self-protective way, and it could point to a person lying. For me, it just feels like a filler when you're thinking and you go, or Kouri says in this radio interview, as we work on going through the trials and navigating different feelings and emotions, we just kind of sat, she says, talking about her and her boys. At the same time, we were looking for different resources to help us.
And, as we were kind of going through the trials and navigation of different feelings and emotions, we, kind of just sat, and at the same time we were looking for different resources to help us.
So a common theme for Kouri throughout this interview and the Good Things Utah TV interview is that her and her boys could find absolutely no grief book resources that fit them. She makes it sound like she wrote the end-all be-all series on grief for children. And she's playing up her hand, like she's playing up her self-importance, maybe her narcissism. You can see it flowing through. She sounds so cold. Knowing what I know, knowing what I've read about this case, she sounds like, okay, no grief books were up to standard until me and my boys wrote this one. She keeps saying, like, we obviously never been through this. My kids have never been through this. So nighttime readings are big for us.
Like, we've obviously never been through this. My kids have never been through this. So, nighttime readings are big for us.
Boy, I'd love to see Peter Hyatt and the behavioral panel and all those guys break this down. She mentions nighttime readings are big for us in this interview. In a different interview, she talked about nighttime being the hardest. I'm wondering if that's because she allegedly brought her husband Eric this poisonous Moscow mule around 9 or 9:30 p.m. the night of his death. Is that why nighttime is the hardest for her? Because she's thinking back to allegedly what she did that night? But she goes on to say, so we started looking through Barnes & Noble and Amazon for things that could comfort us through the nights. So she mentions nights quite a bit. Same spiel as her TV interview. And we just could not find, she said, anything that was relative for my kids and our situation.
And so we kind of started looking through Barnes & Noble and Amazon and things that can kind of comfort, us through the nights during, and we just could not find anything that really was relevant for my kids and for our situation.
I noticed throughout all these interviews, she says my kids quite a bit. She never says our kids, like still keeping Eric's memory alive. Eric and my kids, me and Eric's kids. I notice she takes possession of the kids, like they're my kids. It kind of lends itself to, he stole my money, my house, my this. Everything will go through, hopefully in a future video. I downloaded a bunch of documents yesterday, paid for them on the Utah court's website, and I want to go over the latest happenings with the money situation and how she allegedly stole all this money from her husband. It feels like by her saying my kids, it's like she's taking ownership of these 3 boys and just pushing Eric even further out of the picture. He just needs to be this character, this illustration with angel wings and his hat on the cover of her book covers. That's where he needs to be. That's what it feels like she's saying. So she said, we were just like, let's write our own. So I'm thinking, did her boys, 10, 9, and 6, well, a year younger when their dad died, but did they really over the last year say, Mom, let's write a book? Or did she manipulate and exploit them and their emotions and their raw words and their grief by writing it? She said, a lot of it is questions that actually come from my kids.
And so, we're just like, well, let's write our own. So a lot of it is, questions that actually come from my kids.
Now, of course, that would be lovely if it were a mom who were truly widowed under other circumstances, not accused of taking their children's dad off the face of the earth. And if the kids were into it and they really wanted it as part of the grieving process in another circumstance, sure, that would be lovely. But everything coming out of Kouri's mouth sounds like a bunch of hooey, a bunch of lies. Is Dad with us during birthday parties or Christmas? Or, is Dad with us?
Is Dad with us when we're in, during birthday parties or Christmas, or, is Dad with us?
So it's funny that she didn't name the book, Is Dad With Us? She just wrote, Are You With Us? That was the title. You, it didn't have Dad, it didn't have his name. Just you, are you with us? But when it comes to the next book she planned, I don't know if she ever got to finish it, it was Mom, How Far Away Is Heaven? So that one elevated her as a mom, but the first book, Are You With Us? It's just this impersonal you. But she said because they're going through the sadness of knowing that it's just, he's not here presently. She says, right. Another thing she says quite a bit. I used to say right pretty often too. So we wrote this book and we're really hoping that it provides some comfort, not just for obviously our family, but other families that are going through the same thing.
It's because they're going through the sadness of knowing that it's just, he's not here presently. Right. So we wrote this book and we're really hoping that it provides some comfort for not just obviously our family, but other families that are going through the same thing.
That sounds like altruistic virtue signaling. She doesn't want to just help her boys. She wants to help everyone grieving. Well, probably a lie. If she really did poison her husband, obviously she was not thinking about these boys at all. No matter how embittered or how much hate she might have had for her husband for whatever reasons, it's a whole nother level of evil to take a good dad away from his 3 boys for the rest of their lives. That part is what really is gripping me with this story. So the host asked about social services to help them. Kouri said there are grief counselors, which are huge. We have kind of went through our trials of grief counselors. I think especially with kids, they'll pick and choose who they are comfortable with. So, I have 3 kids, and obviously none of them chose all the exact same one that they liked, right?
And that's the title of the book. Are you with me?
Yes. Yep. Correct.
Yeah.
So
So, what availability of social services is there then for families maybe going through something similar?
there are always, grief counselors, which are huge. And we have kind of went through our trials of grief counselors. I think especially with kids, they'll pick and choose like who they are comfortable with. So, I have 3 kids, and obviously none of them chose all the exact same one that they like, right?
So, yeah, I hope she really did take these kids to grief counselors. Part of me wonders if she did it all, because would she be wary of any of the kids picking up on things and talking too much and telling grief counselors too many stories about what they might have seen that night? Were the boys all really asleep by the time Kouri brought that Moscow mule over to Eric? Could they testify? Will they end up testifying? Have they been interviewed, most likely by cops, to say, yeah, did you really have night terrors like your mom said? And was she really in your room until about 3 a.m.? Or even though they are young, they can truly corroborate some of the stuff or dispel some of the stuff Kouri is claiming happened that night. Who knows? Heaven forbid. I hope they didn't, but maybe they heard a thud. Maybe they heard Daddy fall off the bed. Maybe their mom told them things and just go back to sleep. So that's why I'm wondering, did Kouri really send the boys to grief counselors? Kouri said so, just going through different grief processes, talking about what's happening in general.
So kind of just going through different grief counseling processes and really talking about, what's happening in general.
And speaking about in general, Kouri speaks really broad. It's very cold, it's aloof, it's a little too happy, a little too self-serving, these interviews. It doesn't get to the heart of Eric or the matter, the grief or anything. Everything's kind of surface level. The host says, yes, there are cliches, like time soothes all sorrows. But she says, you told yourself I can write a book. Kouri said, yes, why not? I'm not a previous author, I'm not a child psychologist, I'm not a counselor, right? Like, I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I can only write about what I know and what we're going through. So she said, you just start kind of diving into the process. We can't find any books for us, so, let's write one. Okay, so what do we need to do?
Yeah. Well, the cliche is time soothes all sorrows, but that takes time, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
and I think at some point, when was it? It was just like, well, I can write a book.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you kind of told yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Like, why not? And I'm not a previous author. I am not a child psychologist. I am not a counselor, right? Like, I am a mom of 3 kids, and I can only write about what I know and what we're going through. And, so as you kind of just start diving into the process of, well, we can't find any books for us, so let's write one. So then it's, okay, well, what do we need to do?
Again, mentioning no books out there resonating, it's just hers, that's the stuff. So she talks about, and so the steps of going through publishers, illustrators, and that type of thing. And she laughs there. Kouri laughs there when she talks about it taking them a couple of months to figure out how to do this, and we did it, and the kids are super excited about it. I hope other families are too.
And so the steps of going through, publishers and illustrators and that type of thing. So, it took us a couple of months to really figure out how to do this. And
it's not the first time she laughs. Those are the emotions she shows that I picked up on. She shows coldness, kind of even keel, just being maybe a little nervous, the you-knows, which I can totally relate to. Just the laughter too. Maybe if that were balanced off with getting a little weepy or teary-eyed or some sadness over Eric's death, that would have seemed more realistic. But the host is saying, and you're saying we did this. The kids actually participated in this? And Kouri says, yes, especially my oldest is 10. He, helped kind of navigate through the process, like what he was feeling, what his heart, the sadness that he was feeling.
And we did it, and the kids are super excited about it, and I hope other families are too.
Yeah, and you're saying that we did this. I mean, the kids actually participated in this.
Yes, yeah. So, especially my oldest, he's 10. He, helped kind of, navigate through the process, right? Like what he was feeling, what his heart, the sadness that he was feeling.
It's kind of a shame if she's kind of blaming or roping her kids in or gaslighting them into thinking, yeah, we did. And maybe, of course, she probably really used her kids' words in this book. But if she was the one convincing them, like, we need to do this, this'll heal, this'll help you guys in your grief and all of us, when it was really her motivation, maybe not just for greed, for money, because of course, as we talked in our last video, Kouri didn't expect to be, I won't say destitute, but I will say she did not expect to have as little money or property or what have you as she ended up having after Eric's death. Of course, she thought that, 3.6 million or whatever was coming straight to her. So once she learned, soon after his death, that's not coming straight to me, part of her probably thought, okay, I do need to get more income coming in. I'm not sure how her realty deals were going. We know she thought she'd be in trouble financially. So when did this idea to start writing books pop up? Did she think of it as, okay, it'll be an income stream? Not only that, it'll be a way for me to not seem so guilty or seem just like this grieving widow. Oh my goodness, this young mom, 3 boys, husband died unexpectedly, taken off the wedding ring, I'm back on the market, I need to find another rich husband who I can steal money from and potentially slip something in his drink allegedly. I don't know her thought process. It sounds more innocent when you say, oh yeah, we did it as a family, mom and these 3 young boys, and they wanted to write the book just like I did, so I went ahead and helped them just to help her facade try and play out. And I'm wondering how much of this book, and the next book, if they can get any of it in writing, will play into the trial. It really could help the prosecution. As you can see from this, always on our minds, forever in our hearts. A lot of cliches in her book, even though she did get a ghostwriter apparently. But the one page, I don't know if this was a page in the back or the middle or somewhere, it said, I am here with you every day, every minute, every second. Although you cannot see me, I am there. It's me in the wind. I'm the chill you feel. And that is a little spooky because some people, when they talk about apparitions or ghosts or people who've passed on, sometimes they talk about feeling a chill, a coldness. So it's weird. So I see what some people were saying when some reviewers who have gotten this book, I'm still trying to get it, say it was like dark. It was kind of a dark theme. So like putting words in Eric's mouth, I'm the chill you feel. It's me. The feeling as if someone's with you. I will forever love you, my sweet baby, until we see each other again. Yes, I am with you. And she has Weston, Carter, and then Eric, Kouri, and then Ashton, and apparently they have a dog named Harley. It's just very, very cold. So back to her interview. Then she says, talking about her boys, but then, as we kind of spoke about, though Dad is with you, he's not present, but his presence is here in the room. And so that was a sense of comfort to him that he can just kind of walk through life with now. And if he can do it, like other kids can do it too.
But then, as we kind of spoke and about, no, Dad is with you. He's not present, but his presence is here in the room. And so, that was a sense of comfort to him that he can just kind of walk through life with now. And if he can do it, like other kids can do it too.
So it's like she's telling her oldest son, like, don't worry, your dad's presence is here. She's going to get into a little bit of her belief system too coming up. It's so horrible. It's like she has no fear of the Lord at all. Because she's saying, yeah, it's like your dad's presence is here. Can you imagine poisoning someone? They lose their life. And you're talking to their oldest son saying, Oh, don't worry, he's right here with you. Have you no fear of how that would turn out? I don't know if she's just been this way her whole life. Did she get addicted to substances? People are talking about her marathon photo, how she looks slimmer now. Was she taking something? Did her personality change? We know her previous Home Depot coworker said Kouri was the sweetest girl. And we know you can't fall for pretty faces, but this just seems just out of this world. The host did ask Kouri, so not having read the book, is there some sort of religious sense to it? And Kouri said, there's not. Honestly, I'm not religious. There's no religion. As long as you believe in heaven and afterlife, then it would be good for you.
You know, so.
Yeah, so not having read the book, I mean, is there some religious sense to it?
There's not. Honestly, I'm not religious. There's no religion. As long as you believe in heaven, right, and afterlife, then it would be good for you.
I don't know what she means by that. It sounds like she's not a believer. I don't like the word religious either, so it's something I would say too. I'm not religious, but she might have meant it in the sense of maybe she doesn't have the LDS faith. Maybe Eric did, I'm not sure. But with her, I guess she is saying she believes in heaven and the afterlife. I don't know what her belief system is. I think her belief system is evil to concoct the things she did now. I just can't wait to see her appearance and hear her speak and see what the heck happened here. I mean, it's ridiculous. So Kouri goes back to those 3 main points she said she discovered, I guess in the last year, is connection, continuity, and care. So she talks about that connection is in your home, keeping your loved one's spirit alive, talking about them, their memories, doing their favorite activities. Continuity is keeping your regular day-to-day schedule, whether it's pick up and drop off from school or sports or whatever. And I couldn't believe she mentioned sports there. Keeping a regular schedule is huge for kids.
Kind of the 3 main points that I have discovered, I guess, in the last year is connection, continuity, and care. And those are, connection, which is, in your home, keeping your loved one's spirit alive, right? Talking about them, their memories, like, doing their favorite activities. Continuity is kind of keeping your regular day-to-day schedule. Whether it's pick up and drop off from school or sports or whatever, is keeping a regular schedule is huge for kids.
I was kind of blown away. It was really harsh that she mentioned sports because Eric, as we learned in his obit, was a coach to the boys in sports and how much he encouraged them to, play strong and aggressive and all that. And it's almost like everything she mentions is just so. In the other interview with Good Things Utah, where she spoke about keeping your spouse's memory alive. Maybe it's, oh, Dad would like this meal, the interviewer asked her, talking about his favorite meal. And I was like, oh my goodness, the meals in which she's accused of poisoning him, One time it was a sandwich, one time it was a Moscow Mule. What was the other time? I think another drink. It's been 3 times. And then she talks about care, which is not only loving and hugging and kissing your kids, but just having empathy for them, whether they're mad or they're sad. You have to be able to talk to them and say, look, I understand why you're feeling this way.
And then just care, which is not only loving and kissing and hugging your kids, but, just having empathy for them during the different emotions of grief, whether it's, they're mad or they're sad, or, you have to be able to talk to them and say, look, I understand why you're feeling this way.
She sounded like all so cold. To me, she sounded so cold saying all of this. I can't imagine her, even though she talks about giving her kids cuddles and all that and talks about emotions and mad or sad. It's like she's very flat. I don't know. She's just saying it like, look, I understand why you're feeling this way. I took away your dad and you're sad and, but just the motions of life, she says, and trying to deal with them as they come.
And I think that's huge for kids, just having that affirmation.
Yeah, and I think grief is like that for people who have lost. right? You never know when it's coming or
Right.
going.
Exactly. just the emotions of life and trying to, deal with them as they come.
So the host asked, how do you think this book basically helped your kids? And she said, I think it gave us a sense of distraction for one, and gave us something to put our minds toward.
Come.
Yeah. So how do you think this helped your kids?
I think it gave us a sense of distraction for one.
Yeah, along with her fighting and battling and trying to get Eric's money after he's gone, fighting his sister and all that. But Kouri said, so that was huge for us. Because you can go every day and you can either live in sadness or you can take that sadness and make something good out of it.
And gave us something to put our minds towards, right? So that was huge for us because you can go every day and, you can either live in sadness or you can take that sadness and make something good out of it. So
her tone is just way off to me. So she said it was a really good distraction from this last year and going through, the first holidays without my husband. So she doesn't say my husband Eric, she says my husband. Birthday, like our anniversary, all these things, and it gave us something to work towards.
it was a really good distraction from this last year and going through, the first holidays without my husband, his birthday, like our anniversary, all these things. And it gave us something to work towards.
And then she moves on to the design of the book. And then my kids can kind of like design little characters, these things they want in the book and see it come to life. Too bad their daddy can't come back to life for them. She said, they're kids, right? They're so excited about it. So it really has been a life changer for them. So she's making it sound like this book is just the bee's knees, a life changer, almost makes up for taking away their dad, allegedly.
And then, when my kids can kind of like design, little characters or like say these things that they want in the book and then they see it come to life, they're kids, right? They're so excited about it. So it has really been, a life changer for them.
And they're giving it to some of their friends who've lost parents and really saying, look, I want to help you and I'm here for you. So the host asked, it just got released then? And Kouri says a month ago. So it must have been released in March 2023.
And, they're giving it to some of their friends who have lost parents and, really saying, look, I want to help you and I'm here for you.
That's nice. So it just got released then?
Yeah, a month ago.
The host asks, so it's available online? And Kouri says, on Amazon. The host asked, in local stores? Kouri said, not yet. So we're trying to get it in the next few weeks in a bunch of local stores, like here within the valley. But for now, yeah, it's on Amazon and you can purchase it there.
A month ago.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Right? So
Yes.
it's available online?
On Amazon, yes.
Uh-huh. Any local stores here?
Not yet. So it's not. We're trying to get it in the next few weeks in a bunch of local stores, like, here within the valley. But for now, yeah, it's on Amazon and, you can purchase it there.
So the host wants to know more. She says, talk a little bit about, you say you had no experience writing, but found an editor to help you. Kouri said, yeah, so we kind of had the idea of what we wanted to say and essentially how we wanted the illustrations. And then it kind of took some finding different publishers and ghostwriters that can actually help you with the process, especially for us. She says this again, this has never been in my path or future. I just never thought being an author was, so I had an idea. I had no idea what to do, what to write, how to start.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about it. I mean, you say you had no experience writing, but what, found an editor to help you or?
Yeah, so we kind of had the idea of what we wanted to say and then essentially how we wanted the illustrations. And then it kind of took some time, of finding different publishers and ghostwriters and everything that can actually help you with the process, especially for us. Like, this has never been in my path of, future. Like, I just never thought like being an author was. So I had no idea. What to do, what to write, how to start.
That's the second time, or at least the third time perhaps, in all these interviews I've found so far, she alludes to, I didn't expect this to happen. We never knew this was going to happen. I didn't know this was in my future. It's almost like doth thou protest too much, methinks? Unexpectedly, Eric passed away. I didn't expect this. This has never been my path or future. I just never thought being an author. It's like she's trying to drill it in like, I didn't know this was going to happen, which makes you think the opposite, that, yeah, she planned this to happen. Whether she planned to write books about it, we don't know, only in her sick mind. She said, so it took a little bit of research, where you start. But luckily, the company we ended up choosing took us from very, very step A. Okay, what do you want? What are you trying to create? We just kind of came together like, this is what we want. This is what we want to do. And luckily, we did find the perfect one to guide us through the process.
So it took a little bit of research on where you start. But luckily, the company that we ended up choosing really took us from, very, very step A. Like, okay, what do you want? What are you trying to create? And, we just kind of came together and we're like, this is what we want. This is what we want to do. And luckily, we really did find the perfect one to kind of guide us through the process.
The host asked, well, they were probably pretty excited. The publisher, there's nothing like this. And Kouri laughed again. Yes, there's just still not. She's saying like there's still nothing out there on the market like her book. We couldn't find anything. Now she's talking about already pitching the second book.
Well, they were probably pretty excited, the publisher, right? Because it's like there
Yes.
is nothing like this.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And, there's just still not. We can't find anything. So
Our second book's almost done now. It should be out by the end of April, if not by the 1st of May. And so it will be kind of similar to this one. Just to provide as many resources as we can to kids on a kid's level going through the same experience.
our second book's almost done now. So it should be out by the end of April, if not the 1st of May. And so it will be kind of similar to this one, just to provide as many resources as you can to kids on a kid's level going through the same experience.
The host asked, so do you have a title then for the second one? Kouri said, yes, it's Mom, How Far Away is Heaven? So that reminds me of that song, How Far is Heaven? Again, not very unique or original. The host said, so it was just a natural extension? And Kouri said, yes, it was just a natural. Okay, if we can do this one. Some other questions that kids have.
So do you have a title then for the second one?
Yes, it's Mom, How Far Away is Heaven?
Okay. And it was just a natural extension then, huh?
Yes, it was just a natural, okay, so if we can do this one, what are some other questions, that kids have?
So if she hadn't have gotten caught and arrested, praise God she did, would she have just been pumping out these books trying to be like the next J.K. Rowling or, single mom, trying to pull herself up by her bootstraps and the husband's money didn't work out, so let me write these children's book series and try and make money that way? Obviously, she said it's another children's book. Yeah, we just kind of wrote it in correlation with this one, and hopefully we can help some other families and kids as they kind of navigate through the process of losing a spouse.
It's obviously another children's book, and we just kind of wrote it in correlation with this one, and hopefully we can help some other families and kids as they kind of navigate through the process of losing a spouse.
So that was a little wonky. Families and kids navigate through the process of losing a spouse. So instead of saying a parent, but The host asked Kouri, who did you get to illustrate it for you? Kouri said, Book Writing Lane. Book Writing Lane. They're out of California, but they have been very good about sending different. We kind of gave our general idea. This is what we want. And she goes on to say the main character in the book is actually a combination of all three of her kids. So I did notice the little boy, the illustration did look like maybe her oldest son, beautiful little boys.
Yeah. Who did you get to illustrate it for you?
They're Book Writing Lane. So they're out of California, but they have been very good about sending different, we kind of gave our general idea of this is what I want. So the main character is actually a combination of all three of my kids.
But she said just the look, hair color, eye color, that type of thing. And then I had given them a picture of my husband. Again, she doesn't say his name. And so they kind of illustrated something to look very similar.
Just the look and, hair color, eye color, that type of thing. And then I had given them a picture of my husband. And so they kind of illustrated something to look very similar.
So Kouri continued, So it was just kind of going through the process of let's change this, let's change that, and then they worked their magic and they did it.
So it was kind of going through the process of, let's change this or change that. And then they kind of worked their magic and they did it.
I hope that company doesn't get any hate. I saw Kouri had left a great review for them online. But of course, I'm sure they had no idea that this author coming to them to get this book together was really an alleged murderess. The host said, I was reading some of the reviews on Amazon, and some of those reviews said, we need one for girls. So Kouri said, yes, we're actually working on that as well. So we're going to kind of take this exact same book and make one for girls, also for a husband who has lost his wife.
So,
yeah, I was reading some of the reviews on Amazon and noticed that there were some people, it's like, we need one for girls.
yes. So we're actually working on that as well. So we're going to kind of take this exact same book and make one for girls, also for a husband that has lost his wife.
So we're going to kind of do 4 different versions of this one specifically. So she already had the idea to crank out 4 different versions of, I guess, Are You With Me? And who knows how many versions of her next books. So it will be a mom, she said, talking to her son, and then a husband talking to the daughter, or a husband talking to his son. Kouri said just to make sure you hit every type of family dynamic.
So we're gonna kind of do like 4 different versions of this one specifically. So it will be, a mom talking to, obviously her son, and then a husband talking to the daughter, or a husband talking to his son, and just to make sure you kind of hit every type, a family dynamic.
She said this same book will have about 4 or 5 different versions. So I'm sure she was thinking of just multiplying the sales by hitting all these different variants of family members. Whatever it is, spouse and daughter, or wife and daughter, or whatever it is. So this is towards the end. It seems like she gets a little tripped up.
And so that is kind of, the same book will have about 4 or 5 different versions of, whether it's a husband, or whatever it is, spouse and daughter, or, wife and daughter, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the host, goes personal. Like, it must have been something missing in that interview, because the host said, so how are y'all doing? I guess you have good and bad days, like trying to get something personal out of Kouri. Kouri said, it's good and bad days. Some days you're like, okay, I got this. Like, we're okay, we can figure this out. And there's other days. It's like, what the heck? What am I doing? I can't do this. But it's a roller coaster of emotions, essentially.
So how are y'all doing? You guys, I guess you have good and bad days?
It's good and bad days. Yeah, some days you're like, okay, I got this. Like, we're okay, and we can figure this out. And there's other days, and it's like, what the heck? What am I doing? Like, I can't do this, but it's a roller coaster of emotions, essentially. And
Kouri said counseling really does help, and kind of making sure you're staying so connected with your kids and talking about everything. Making sure they're telling stories of Dad, just memories. So she called him Dad there. I don't think I've heard her say Eric once. Letting them know, that's okay, let's talk about it. So the host said, boys are young, right? Kouri says, yeah, 10, 9, and 6.
Counseling really does help, and kind of making sure you're staying so connected with your kids and talking about everything, and, making sure they're telling the stories of Dad that, just memories, right? And letting them know that's okay. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Boys are young, right?
Yes, 10, 9, and 6.
And the host said, yeah, that's really good for the youngest, because he would have the harder time remembering. And I guess it's tough on you because you got to be the strong one, but you share your emotions as well, I'm guessing. And Kouri said, yeah, I definitely do. You kind of want to be the strong one in the house and hold everybody together. I'm not going to say there's not nights. Once again, she's bringing up those nights where you break down yourself because am I doing this right? No, Kouri, you didn't. Is this okay? Are we keeping it together? But any parent can tell you with your kids, you have to be the glue. So she's calling herself the glue. That reminded me of the Letitia Staub trial. Albert said, you weren't the glue. Like these evil women trying to make themselves seem like I'm the glue that holds my family together.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's probably great, just because the youngest, are going to have the
Yes.
harder parts remembering.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
and I guess it's tough on you too, because you got to kind of be the strong one, but you share your emotions as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I definitely do. You kind of want to be the strong one in the house and hold everybody together, but I'm not going to say there's not nights where you break down yourself because you're, am I doing this right? Is this okay? Are we keeping it together? But any parent can tell you with their kids, like, you have to be the glue. So that's just, it is what it is. But we're doing okay. Yeah, we're all hanging in there and taking it day by day.
Yeah. So again, the book is Are You With Me, available now on Amazon and hopefully in
Yes.
some of our local bookstores. Anything else
For
you'd like to
sure.
share?
No, I think that's it. I think that's great. I really do hope people can, kind of find peace and comfort with this and help them through the different trials in their life.
Okay. Well,
Awesome.
Congratulations. That's a
thank you.
big deal with book 2 on its heels here.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Okay. Kouri Richins, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So Kouri said, that's just it. It is what it is, but we're doing okay. We're all hanging in there and taking it day by day. Like a lot of platitudes, a lot of cliches. The host says, anything else you'd like to share? And Kouri says, no, I think that's it. I think that's great. I hope people can find peace and comfort with this and help them through the different trials in life. Host said, congratulations, big deal, with book 2 on its heels. Kouri said, thank you. Yes, and laughs again. Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much. That was it. The next videos I'll probably dive into the money situation and stuff. I wonder if Kouri thought she had gotten away with it, if cops were none the wiser, if she was going to go on and try and launch this successful career as a children's book author. I did look up the rank. I think she hit at one point, from a screenshot, we could see a Kindle rank of around 2,000 out of all the Kindle books, and I did do a check, which meant she could have been selling about 20 or more books a day, something like that. So again, some people have to have them out there. They can just screenshot all those 45, 48 pages and post them somewhere to see what the inside of the book looked like and what those red flags were. Matthew 11:28. Jesus said, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. That's Kouri's hope now. Yeah, maybe she's not religious, I get it, but with all of these plans for richness and greed falling short, and her husband Eric gone, and it just looks like a battle of greed, maybe she can sit in that jail and learn about the love of money being the root of all evil. If she is indeed guilty of this crime, it is too horrific to even think about. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next videos on this and other cases. Take care.